There are couples who are compatible and couples that aren't. Throughout my dating life, I've had relationships that have fallen into both categories. But for one reason or another, I've noticed that a lot of people can't recognize the signs of a doomed relationship. I get it. I've been there. You tell yourself that you want to be with your partner for the rest of your life, and live happily ever after as if you're in a magic fairy tale written by Disney. But here's the thing, if your relationship frequently displays signs of incompatibility, you won't be happy. Instead, you'll just end up being incredibly miserable. What happens next isn't pretty. From personal experience, I've learned that forcing yourself to be in a relationship creates resentment, and can quickly turn a beautiful romance into one of perpetual hatred and heartbreak. Without even knowing you, I can tell that you want to be happy. So if you notice your relationship displaying the following signs of incompatibility, it's a good idea to move on, so you can find someone else to love for the rest of your life. 1. Different visions for the future. If you're in love with someone, you've probably thought about what your future together may look like. But for one reason or another, very few people seem to discuss the feasibility of making their dream a reality. At the start of a relationship, most people don't have an honest conversation about where they want to live, the type of house they want to buy, or any other big decision that will change the trajectory of their life forever. So 5 years later, when the discussion becomes mandatory, due to a baby coming along, or anything else, it can highlight any significant differences in your future visions. I'll give you a personal example. In one of my previous relationships, I genuinely thought that our love would last for decades. Everything seemed perfect. She was beautiful, kind, funny, and the type of person that I could see myself being with for the rest of my life. The only problem? We didn't discuss the type of life that we want to have someday in the future. I like traveling. I love visiting new countries, exploring national parks, and experiencing everything that the world has to offer. Meanwhile, she wanted to live in a small town for the rest of her life, and never go abroad because she was quite happy staying in the United Kingdom. As you can imagine, when we realized that we had extremely different visions for the future, it quickly became apparent that things wouldn't work out. In other words, our ideal lifestyles were extremely incompatible. If you want to know if your relationship is destined to last, talk with your partner about the future. Do you want to live abroad or in your home country? Do you want to live in a large city, or in a small town? You get the idea. Obviously, your visions of the future may differ slightly, and that's okay. But if you both want entirely different things from life, it may be necessary to re-evaluate if you're as compatible as you initially thought. 2. Different lifestyle choices. It's normal to disagree on a few different types of food. You're not the same person, so you can't be expected to eat the same things. But if you have incredibly different eating habits compared to your partner, problems can arise very quickly. For example, I make no apologies for the fact that I love meat. One of my favorite things to do is go out for a meal and enjoy a beautiful T-bone steak with fries and a side of salad. So as you can imagine, when I started dating a vegan a couple of years ago, we found it incredibly difficult to agree on which restaurant to visit for dinner. Of course, we tried to respect each other's lifestyle choices. But as we consistently argued over where to eat, arguments became frequent, and the relationship fell apart quickly. That's why it's vital to find common ground when dating someone with different lifestyle choices. You don't want to argue over simple things such as where to eat, and the type of food you cook each evening. It just creates unwanted friction between each other, and your incompatibility will quickly become apparent. Talk to your partner about your expectations within the relationship. Are your lifestyles compatible? The only way to know is by having a conversation and making a genuine attempt to find common ground. 3. Different levels of sexual energy. My first girlfriend and I were deeply in love. At least, that's what we thought at the time. Because when you've never been in a proper relationship before, you've got nothing else to compare it to. But every time we had sex, something didn't seem right. Obviously, we both enjoyed it. But we had different levels of sexual energy, so I'd often feel unfilled or unsatisfied. As you can imagine, this created friction in the relationship. We ended up arguing about everything, disagreeing on how long, often to have sex, and many other things that quickly resulted in a breakup. It didn't end well. From this, I learned that different levels of sexual energy can easily create incompatibility in a relationship. Why? Because sex is supposed to be a beautiful experience that brings two people closer together. But if you argue about everything in the bedroom, it can make you grow further apart. If you want to be in a happy relationship, you need to ensure that you and your partner are on the same page regarding sex, lifestyle, and your future together as a couple. Of course, it's okay to disagree on some things. But if you're unable to find common ground, it'll only be a matter of time before feelings of resentment arise, and your relationship slowly begins to implode.